Hi, and welcome back to Safety Lead, the channel dedicated to help you sell safety to your workers. And this is going to be a nice little point system here. You might be able to use these 8 points for a toolbox talk. You might want to talk about that. You can use it for a weekly or a daily. It might just help you out a little bit. So it's worth just watching. These are the 8 ways that you can be impaired at work. We always think about drugs and alcohol because that's what's on our mind because of all the changing laws in Canada right now. But there's more ways that we can be impaired at work, and so we want to talk about all 8 of them. So bear with me. This actually came from an OHS article from a couple of years back, and I've combined some of them because they seem to go together, and so you'll find that. So I hope you like the way I've combined them, and I hope that you can use them for your own toolbox talk. Number one way people think about being impaired at work, and when we think about just being impaired at all, whether you're driving a car or whatever you're doing, operating machinery, it's due to alcohol and drugs. Or drugs, I guess we could say. You don't have to do both, but when people are impaired, they usually do. It's usually one of those 2 things that we're thinking about. They're impaired because they're hammered, or they're impaired because they're high. First one would be because of recreational drugs. And like I say, because of the changing laws in Canada, this is a really tricky one. People have to get their heads around what is expected of them at work in terms of the new legalized marijuana. That's not up for me to talk about with your company. I hope you've got everything straightened out there. That is a hell of a job to have. Number 2, medication. So we could be talking about medication prescribed by a doctor. So legal medication, if it's a Tylenol 3 or if it's a muscle relaxant, it could be affecting your mind to the point where you don't want to be operating heavy machinery. You might want to go to your boss and talk to them about getting a change of work for the day or for the week if you're on meds for a week or so. However you have to deal with that, totally up to you. But it's one of those things you're going to want to make sure that your boss is aware of and you're aware of, because if you have an accident, an incident, an injury occurs on site and you're involved and you've had anything in your system, whether it's been prescribed or not, after you do that P-test, you got to make sure everybody knows what's going on. So hopefully you have nothing in your system at work. That's the safest way to go about it, obviously. Another way, the third way that we can actually be impaired at work is just fatigue. And there's different reasons for fatigue. In the list, they had a bunch of different things. Tired fatigue because of moonlighting, disrupted sleep, so really anything that's stopping you from sleeping. If you've got your attentions elsewhere and you're not getting the amount of sleep that you need to go to work safely, then that could be considered impaired. As a leader, you're going to watch for identifying factors here. What does it look like when someone's tired? I'm pretty sure everybody understands that when someone's tired, they look tired. They look like they're not put together well. Their face doesn't look good. Usually dark circles under their eyes, all that kind of stuff. Don't have to spell that one out to you probably. Number 4 is you could be considered impaired at work if you've got a family crisis going on at home. And so this could be many things, right? Like you'd think about family crises. When people get distracted at work or impaired at work because of a family crisis, just think about it. If my dad's sick, or if my dog's dead, or if there's a divorce, or if there's even a new baby in the house. Gosh, some people think a pet is really distracting and they'll keep you up all night. So really it could be anything depending on people's personal values that it would be considered a family crisis, a big change at home. And that's a big one. That's number 4. Number 5 is outside activity that distracts you from work, from keeping your mind on task. And so you look at this and you think, have I got anybody on site that I'm working with that's maybe taking university courses, working towards a degree, has a moonlighting gig as a part of a band or a back, another gig just with another company even that you have heard about or that you know about. You have to watch them for signs of being tired and impaired. And it might not be that they're tired. It might just be that they're distracted and they're thinking about that university degree while they're swinging a hammer or using a shovel or, God forbid, a backhoe or, a forklift. Well, now that could be pretty disastrous. So we want to make sure that if people are thinking, we have to remind them to keep their mind on task somehow. And as safety advisors and leaders, I'm sure you got a handle on a lot of ways to do that. I'll be bringing you more in the future, I'm sure. Number 6 is one that we hear more and more of today, and it would fall under mental issues like mental impairment due to PTSD. So it could be because of service. God bless you if you're involved in the Army or the Navy or Canada's military forces. I thank you very much. At the same time, if you've got PTSD, then it's something that you got to be careful with, because if you're struggling with something like that and you're working with heavy machinery or on a line or anywhere where other people depend on you for their safety, as do you, having something like that, you make sure that it's noted and that you understand what it is and that you're dealing with it. It's a hard thing to do. And as a leader, you got to be watching for, for your vets. You got to be taking care of them. These people took care of us, so we got to make sure we're taking care of them if we need to. Number 7 is a work conflict. And I think right now, I've spoken about this in other videos too, that with the political atmosphere now in North America being so polarized, I think there is a lot of conflict anyway. And some people with different ideologies are having a really hard time actually communicating and talking about those things without getting angry. There's a lot of anger out there. And so that conflict can easily turn over if work isn't being done the way that one person wants it, or if there's issues at work. And that there's a conflict there. You can also see this identified if there's sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, that kind of thing, or bullying would be another one that workplace bullying would be another one. All of that would fall to me under conflict at work, and that can be very distracting. And they consider that actually being impaired if you're in that, if you're listening to that, if you're thinking about that, if you're worried about that. You're not worried about how to do your job and follow your procedures safely. So it's something you have to watch out for. So if you see conflict at work as a leader, it's an identifying factor. You got to look at that and say, I need to make sure I'm keeping my eye on that and squashing whatever I can squash. It's no good for anybody. And the last one is a pretty simple one, and it's pretty in Canada, we deal with some of it down in the States, and other places we deal with it another way. Extreme cold or extreme heat can cause impairment. If you think about it, if you've ever been really cold, I spent a lot of time working up north in northern Alberta. When the metal gets down to about -30, -35, you take micro breaks and you get warmed up. But even when you're out there for 10, 15 minutes at a time, and you're out there and it's that cold, it's that extreme, that's going to be on your mind. Your fingers hurting because they're cold is going to be on your mind. God hoping that you're dressed appropriately for it. It's the same with the heat. The heat can be very distracting. It can actually cause all sorts of problems. So as a worker, you got to know that you're out there and you're pounding, you're working, and you're taking care of business, but you're not being tougher by holding off on some of those symptoms. If your fingers you're not feeling your fingers real well, or if you're getting cold enough that it's getting distracted, you got to take that micro break and make sure you warm up a little bit. And the heat is exactly the same thing. If you're getting overheated, you got to make sure you get hydrated. And if you can get to a cooler place, a little bit of shade for a couple minutes to relax, you got to get there and take care of yourself, right? We're in a place in time right now, we're probably one of the luckiest generations in time ever, and that has rolled over into work. So we can take care of ourselves at work, and we can take those breaks, and we don't have to think we're being tough by not taking them. We can just take those. So anyway, those are your 8 different ways that you can actually be impaired at work, 6 of which have nothing to do with drugs. And so is impairment at work something we got to consider if we're thinking about the safety of our people and our crews and our workmates? I think it is. And I think that we can look at those things, look for those identifying factors so that we can help people if they are distracted or impaired, and give them a hand and make sure we're protecting not only ourselves but the other people that are working with us. That's my message for the day. Hope you have a great week and a safe week, and I look forward to next time. This is Dan Komsky from Safety Lead. Please don't forget to like, follow, comment. I love it all. Take care.